Welcome to the Upshot, Ulti-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield on this Thursday, January 23rd. Josh, big news. I got a new camera. We're back.
We're back.
We're no longer glitchy.
I love that the first time someone said something to you in the comments or in an email, it was the day that you'd ordered a new camera.
I mean, I get it. Like, you don't want to watch a YouTube video and have it be like glitching out. It's very annoying.
Yeah.
So we are good to go. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I will not count my chickens, but so far so good. We got a good one for you today. Casey White will join us in a little bit. We'll be talking to him about his offseason new contract with Discmania, last year's Champions Cup, and leading after 2 rounds, and more. So looking forward to that. First, though, going to hit some news really quick. There's news even between the Tuesday and Thursday show, Josh.
Look at that.
I don't know what to tell you. It's like they know we're going to be here to talk about it, so they got to get it out on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Right. Now they're done, though. No more news.
No more news.
You stop until Monday.
Unless it's bad, and then you drop it on Friday night. So Silva Saarinen, 4-year re-up with MVP. So they're locking that down.
It
seems like a great deal for both sides.
Agreed. Completely agree. And it's funny because I think this might be from all the announcements that we've had thus far, I think this is the longest time frame that's been announced this season.
For the whole offseason, right?
I think so. Because I think Isaac got a 3-year, right?
Isaac
and AB got a 3-year.
AB, let me just control F. Yeah, no, I think you're right, Josh.
I think a lot of the MPO players got 3-year deals.
Germ got 4.
Germ at MVP.
Yes.
MVP is the company that is locking their players down right now.
It's interesting. Zigging when others are zagging a little bit.
Well, I mean, listen.
We don't know the terms for the Climo deal, but true. I've heard that it's a longer term deal. Not like 10 years, but that one's
also a little
obviously wouldn't do something like that on a 1-year basis.
Right. That one's a little bit different, though.
That's a different thing.
Like,
it's a different thing. Yeah.
But I mean, listen, you know what they say, right? They say that you should buy low, sell high. And I mean, it makes sense then. Like, why not? Why not extend some of these key players at a low point where maybe you offer a little bit better than the competition does? Probably doesn't take much to beat out competition, and then lock them in at a pretty decent rate for 4 years. If that market goes back up, these guys are going to look like geniuses.
I mean, Silva, is it a buy low spot on Silva? I feel like a year ago it was. She won multiple Pro Tours.
Yeah. I'm not talking player side though. I'm talking market side, right?
That's fair. Fair.
If the market rebounds in 2 years and you only put Silva on a 2-year deal, and let's say the market in 2 years gets right back to a super healthy, it's like we're selling discs like crazy, then Silva's going to command a much, much bigger contract. And so compared to a lot of other retailers, I think signing players to longer term deals in a down market means that they can beat out competition and probably get it for a better deal if you think the market's going to rebound.
I mean, you look at MVP's deals, and we talked about how they've signed, very popular players. Silva, by the way, quite popular. Or at least, I haven't looked at the super narrow look at it, but I think there is to some extent probably a lot of people who are sort of neutral, but the people who know Silva like Silva, despite her having a very unusual personality. But like, it's unique, right? To have somebody who's very terse in interviews, who kind of doesn't show a lot of emotion on the course. It's got a little bit of a Calvin vibe to the whole thing, and Calvin is a mega popular player. It's not like you have to be a bubbly extrovert in order to be a favorite of fans.
Right. Yeah.
But look at MVP, right? This season's big signings, Silva and Germ.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had Eagle last year, and then they extended James Conrad and signed Simon in 2023. Like, they're not doing a lot, but what they are doing makes so much sense. And I feel like they're being extremely rewarded by the market for these moves.
Yeah, I agree. And the other part that's important, I think, is like they have a very clear identity. And remember, prior to James Conrad, I had a buddy he's thrown MVP forever. He is a baseball player, prefers sidearm, right? Like that flat top. He has been in the cult since before COVID.
He's OG.
He's OG. He's an OG. And I remember he's like, yeah, like Sarah Hokum's my favorite pro. And I'm like, why is Sarah Hokum your favorite pro? He's like, well, she's the only MVP pro I can root for. And they signed James Conrad. And man, those MVP fans were just jazzed because they had a pro that they were getting to root for who was competing. And then obviously Worlds and it just skyrockets. But like MVP had such a strong identity before. And they have done such an excellent job of picking pros who match that identity. And, Silva and it's funny because I almost feel like Eagle is the worst fit among the identity, but obviously commands his own popularity. But like, I love the Simon pick. I love the Silva pick. It all just seems to make so much sense. And whether that's just, my perception and kind of bias about it, MVP's killing it. And I think this is a great move.
I'm surprised to hear you say Eagle is not a good fit. I guess I'm curious why, because he's so cerebral about discs. I mean, the guy's doing mystery, pick a disc out of a box, and like he knows the whole MVP lineup by feel.
Sure, but he could have done that. He could have done that any company.
Well, that's fair, but like I guess MVP has this sort of like science-y, I mean, literally in their marketing, the science-y, like we are doing something that is better and unique with the gyro.
You're right,
like,
and
Eagles like matches that energy to me.
You're totally right. That Wind Dragon is definitely just like peak science. Like,
did you see this? He just dropped a new disc.
Yeah, like I don't.
You should, if you haven't seen the video, folks, you got to check it out because it starts out like we're gonna reprise Wind Dragon, and then he's like, "Psych." It's pretty good.
No, like I'm sorry, I don't think the Wind Dragon fits as well. Like the Simon's Pixel and the time lapse, and like those to me match. Eagles brand feels. You're right. It's really sciencey, and I've never Eagles kind of like a little bit of a granola nature,
like an elemental thing going on. I don't know. I see sort of what you're saying, but it's also. I mean, Eagles always going to have a little bit of a unique.
Yes, and that's the thing is he commands his own popularity, so it doesn't matter. And Simon being there also helps him, right? Like I'm not saying Eagles a bad signing.
They are connected.
Yeah, they are
because of marketing and the Discmania connection from years back.
Yes,
but obviously they're also great friends. So yeah. Anyway, makes a lot of sense to me. 4-year deal.
Yeah.
The other news: the Disc Golf Pro Tour announced it will do an All-Star event on Thursday, February 27th, one day before the start of the season with the Supreme Flight Open down in Brooksville, Florida. So they're condensing this All-Star thing into a one-round mixed doubles exhibition event. It'll be an 18-hole round, same competition layout as the season opener, featuring 9 holes of best shot and then alternate shot doubles in the back 9. Doubles pairings will be decided via a draft. They won't do that live. They'll just make the picks. There's going to be 24 players forming 12 doubles teams. And then, so the 6 top FPO players will draft a partner from the bottom 6 MPO. And then the 6 top MPO will draft partners from the bottom 6 FPO. So, very condensed. Like, we're not going to have a lot of the skills competitions, all that other stuff that they typically have done at All-Stars. At least that's how it appears.
Yeah. I'm interested. Like, I don't know. The All-Star event has not hit great with me. Like it hasn't been. It's not peak content that I look. I'm always like, oh, it's like, oh, the return of disc golf, thank goodness. But it's not like the All-Star event in particular. I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is what I've been looking for. So I am completely open to experimenting with new All-Star formats.
Drone flyover distance comp was pretty hype though.
That was hype. I am sad the distance comp.
Maybe are you going to do that?
Are you going to miss the drones hovering during like the putting contest?
Oh god,
that you could hear in the camera. And then they had to cut it off of YouTube because of the copyright music that was playing in the background.
Tough, very tough. The other thing, and maybe this is even bigger news, they're now moving the All-Star competition into the weeks right after the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship at the end of the season. So they're actually going to have a second All-Star event this year, probably sometime in early November for the All-Stars from the 2025 season. And quote from Jeff Spring, we're excited about the potential that a fall All-Star competition holds for players, fans, and our partners. By holding All-Stars at the end of each season, we can more immediately and effectively celebrate the achievements of the players that qualify at the end of the year, provide an additional DGN broadcast to the disc golf community before the holiday season, and host All-Stars in conjunction with the release of our other end-of-season awards. Makes sense to me.
I like it. Yeah.
I mean, that's basically how NFL does it. I mean, I guess technically they do theirs, a week before the Super Bowl? Right?
But then those players playing in that are excluded, and you don't really want to exclude players playing the Pro Tour Championship. No.
We have drafted this year's All-Stars from a pool of players not competing at the Pro Tour Championship. So players 33 through 40 will be competing. Would not go over so well.
No, tough look.
What's the alternative? The early season one is not great. It makes more sense to me to have it a few weeks after the Pro Tour Championship and have it be a season-ending celebration when we're still all kind of engaged with the current season.
Yep.
The other thing you could do is have it mid-season, and I just don't think it works in disc golf.
No, I don't think so either.
Not until there's lots of fans and money. Right. More than we have now. So interesting. We'll see what happens. I think it also opens up the possibility of them doing a 2 or 3 day event instead of kind of just tacking it on. I mean, I feel like they're almost doing this because they feel like they have to rather than that they want to here at the start of 2025. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Casey White joins us on the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Well, big news out of Pound. They are redesigning the Octothorpe, the flagship bag that has been the staple of Pound for years. Is getting a full makeover. We've got some clips to show you from the prototyping process. Here's Levi Wisingham and what he's working on right now with the new Octothorpe.
The two big improvements that we wanted to make with the Octothorpe were making it more stable and coming up with a better shoulder pad attachment system. We made the bag a full 1.5 inches wider front to back, which increased the footprint of the bag by about 15%. We went to a Rufus style construction of the putter pocket, but because the Octothorpe is 2 inches taller, we were able to create a larger face here, which allowed for a cell phone pocket, as well as full-size Sharpie and Leatherman pocket knife multi-tool pocket, the shoulder pad attachment system. We decided to go with just a very simple, very low profile ladder lock buckle. Like all of our shoulder pads, it is then double backed with our load lifter, which pulls the shoulder pad up off the ground and also pulls the entire load of the bag up into your back.
Joining us now on the Upshot is Casey White. He just re-signed for 2 years with Discmania. Casey, welcome back to the program.
It's great to be here. I am a huge fan of the pod, and it's just it's always a treat to come back.
Well, thank you. How's your off season going? I know you've been telling me a little bit that you've been having this crazy van build going on, and it's been every day, it feels like. What's the latest?
Oh man, it is crunch time, let me tell you. So the soft deadline was to leave for Florida February 1st. The van was purchased on November 11th or so and taken home on the 14th. And as soon as it's been home, I think it's been like 95% of the days have been like as early as I can get going and as late as I could possibly fathom. And like, honestly, the hardest thing has been like eating because I'm just so go, go, go. It's got to get done. It's got to get done. It's got to get done. I'm like, oh, 7 p.m. Oh, what's lunch? You know what I mean?
Are you going to be done by February 1st?
Not because of my doing, but because of the network of friends that I have available to me and their expertise and each individual qualities that they bring to the table. They are my saviors, and my fiance is the main reason that all of it is falling into place. Like, I can't say enough. Like, I am just a person with a dream, and my dream is coming to life right in front of me.
That's awesome.
It's so awesome, but it's such freaking work, so much hard work, and hours a day.
So it's an interesting off season for a number of reasons. I mean, not only are you building out this van, but it's also a contract year in a down market. We didn't get an announcement from Discmania for quite some time. Was there some back and forth? Were you entertaining other offers? Was it always going to be Discmania? What was your off-season contract negotiations looking like?
So dating back to Tour Championship, we're all talking to each other saying, hey, what are you guys thinking? And I just kept telling everybody, and not even just the players, like the disc golf world asked me, what are you thinking? I said, hey, Discmania is the place for me as long as they can have me and, give me something worth my time. But I didn't know what they were going to be able to put on the table for me. I knew I had a great season and I was looking to improve on the deal I already had. So basically, yeah, I waited a couple weeks after Tour Championship, let the dust settle, let us kind of actually feel like we're in the groove of the off season. I know Discmania had some financials that they need to straighten out without me even having to reach out. Like, I just said, hey, it's been a couple weeks. Are we ready to talk? And they said, yeah, bring it on. I was expecting a pretty solid offer. And basically at first it was like, that's not going to cut it. What do you think about this? And they were like, all right, well, we'll take it to the higher ups. And I just kind of felt like I was in a position where I'm like, well, I have to see what else is out there. So I reached out to a couple friends and said, hey, who do you know? And can I get a conversation? One I heard back from, one completely ghosted me. And basically, when Discmania called me next, I had no reason to continue any conversation with the other company.
Any chance you're willing to say who ghosted you?
Yeah, Innova.
Okay. You had initial conversations, or they never even picked up?
Never. Nothing.
It's been.
I just said, hey, I might need an offer, and they just never even no email back or whatever. Text, whatever it had to be.
Go ahead.
So be it,
Josh.
I look at it as so be it. Whatever.
My question's about a little more contract. Did you want to follow up on the Innova thing, Charlie?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So you said that you were looking for, you had a good season. I think, you're going with some momentum going into the next season. You're looking for a pretty good contract. Sound like you wanted an increase from what you had previously. Did you end up getting an increase for next year from last year?
Yes, sir, I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And honestly, it's mind blowing after hearing the stories, because I've had this locked in with Discmania since like mid-November. So I kind of watched everything exploding around me after I was like, whew, glad that's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Percentage increase. I don't know if you can say real dollars, but percentage increase?
100%.
Wow. You're doubling your contract value.
Yep.
That seems like...
Well, sorry, not my contract value, but my guaranteed pay.
Guaranteed pay doubles, royalties stay the same.
Yes.
What percentage of your total compensation from Discmania was your contract value? It was your guaranteed money.
It was probably, what would that be? 20% before. So that went to probably somewhere between 30 and 40.
Okay.
So you must feel blessed. I mean, people were get crushed this offseason. I mean, and like, you know, you're over 1030 rated. You had multiple top 10s. I mean, you obviously a good player on tour, but you are still in that kind of like middle of the pack zone that can be a little difficult to
you guys call it tier
from.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's accurate?
I'm in a unique spot from everybody. I know that there is a category of player that, you know, I have attributes to, but I also have similar attributes to a different category of players on a completely different tier. But it really just comes down to the fact that like my YouTube brings a completely different value. And at the end of the day, like, it doesn't come down to my finishes. My finishes are typically just like a bonus leverage point. Like, I'm just out there trying to do my best because I take pride in my abilities and I take pride in my finishes, and I need to make money on road. I need to make as much money as possible, and every stroke counts. But when it really comes down to like, categorizing, like, where do I fall against my peers? It's really tough because there are players that are way better than me, but I truly believe that I can outsell them no matter what plastic I'm throwing. And to me, like, as long as Discmania and I are both on the same page where they are happy because I can sell discs for them, then that is the most important thing. It's not the top 10s. It's not qualifying for the Tour Championship.
What would you say? We've talked a lot, and it was a conversation that was sparked both by Macbeth's contract, but more recently Simon's contract, and then even Eagle's contract. Right? We talk about players who, like you, have strong media presences. Big Germ, I think, is another one. Right? Like,
Perfect
his
example.
competitive days, his top competitive days are behind him. Right? But he is one of the most, if not the most, influential commentator in our sport. To what extent do you believe the relationship exists between exposure in media, disc sales, and finishing well on tour? If you quit touring, or let's just say you never took another top 25, do you think that your media presence would diminish because of that and your sales?
You just have to figure it would. Like, you know, we wouldn't be out here betting on ourselves if we felt like we could do it from behind a camera.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it for a reason. We're chasing a dream, of course. We're testing our abilities every single week because we believe in ourselves, and that's the beauty of it. But at the same time, it comes down to selling discs. And I have said many times, because it's just a reality that we may face at some point at this point in the market, where if the Disc Golf Pro Tour were to close up shop and they said, sorry, you know, tour card holders, you're going to have to find your own tour and you're going to have to create your own tour schedule, essentially, where right now all we do is wait for the announcement and I go, oh, where am I going to get to go in the country this year? What courses am I going to get to play this year? But I truly believe that where I've positioned myself in the media world, as a competitor, like my abilities, and just like, I don't know, my ability to engage with fans in a positive manner, in a just like excited attitude. I truly think that the more I could individualize myself at the smaller community A tiers, that is where I could take the step to becoming closer to a Big Germ type of, like, I don't know, like just connection between the players that are not professional and us professional players. Like, I've truly considered just completely trying to avoid like certain off weeks where everybody's going to Las Vegas Challenge or the Memorial because, oh, well, they used to be tour events and they fit in with the schedule, so might as well go. I'm like, well, no, I would rather go to Mobile, Alabama, because they've never seen me play before. And I went last year and the fans were just so thrilled to have me. As soon as I saw that it fit between chess.com and Waco again, I said, absolutely, sign me up. And a great course. And a great
makes
course.
sense. It's also harder to separate from like the Gannons and the Calvins and everybody if you go to the big A tiers where they all are playing and it's essentially a tour event.
Yeah, when Gannon shot those crazy rounds at the Rip, I was at home playing an unsanctioned event because there's no place I'd rather be that weekend.
That's awesome. So one of the things I saw in a post at the end of the season, you said, there is not a doubt in my mind that the Champions Cup this year was mine for the taking. You had the lead through 2 rounds. Take us through what happened there, because you're playing great, you're in the woods, you're locked in, and then you're dealing with this, was it a bit, would you describe it as a big injury, like a small thing that was just affecting your throw?
I mean, first of all, couldn't be happier for you to be asking this question just so I can speak my case. Second of all, it is a chronic thing that I've dealt with since the Las Vegas Challenge 2020 was the first time that my middle finger ever blew wide open, full on torn callus, to the point that I have a 1/2 inch long and probably 2 millimeter deep flap coming off of exactly where my most confident contact point on my power grip comes in contact with my distance driver, whatever. Every disc, every single disc besides my fan grip on my putts. And I've battled it with tape. I've battled it with liquid skin. And basically every single year we go through the ringer and we play event after event after event after event. And it doesn't matter how much O'Keeffe's Working Hands lotion you use every single night. It doesn't matter how careful I am. The amount of commitment required and the amount of throws required week in and week out. That week for the Champions Cup was Music City leading directly into a major. So I took Monday off after Music City and then played Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Champions Cup started. I had noticed a blemish, which it always starts small, just the tiniest little fraction of damaged skin, but every single throw is one step closer to it blowing wide open. And like I said, I try to do preventative measures. Tape is a last resort. So I try to use the liquid skin. And that actually, if I can apply it with enough time before my round and everything, I have quite the routine for it. It works. But what doesn't work is 34 holes in one day, because there is no way of avoiding it when I'm throwing more than 34 full power.
Wow, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. So every single night, especially on tournament nights, I lotion my hand as much as possible. I literally wear a latex glove to freaking, it's like cauterizing the wound as best I can. You know what I mean? It's just the reality. If you have seen the photo of Anthony Barella holding the Jonesboro trophy, his freaking middle finger is torn to shreds.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
People just don't understand how important a feeling of a fingertip is to us pros, and how much of a wear and tear the tour does, not on our muscles, on our fingertips. It is crazy what I've seen some players playing with. I remember Aaron Gossage was bleeding through a friction glove practicing for OTB Open a couple of years ago, and then he almost won. You would think that he'd say, "Oh man, I got to take the week off." No, he's out there practicing with a friction glove, dripping blood through it, but he's got to get it done. And so more specifically to the Champions Cup week, Northwood Black is just the course for me. There's no other way to put it. The way that the fairways are shaped, they're typically favoring a late flip left to right. The amount of low speed discs that I'm able to throw, I only throw an 11 speed when I truly just feel like freaking big dog in a fairway and getting way up there. But it's not necessary. It's all about what's comfortable in my hand. It might be a 7 speed. But sometimes I'm like, oh no, I'm going to just have a chip on this upshot, so I'm going to throw my DD1. Now my caddy, EJ, he first caddied for me, I don't know, Jonesboro 2022. We met the year before, but then he came out to Ledgestone in 2023. I played solid on Eureka, but then I shot I shot a 6 under the second round, and then I shot the hot round at a 5 under and put myself on lead card for the final round. And like, I was having a horrible season. So lead card, final round, like especially Northwood Black, like it just felt so good. And I told my caddy when they scheduled Champions Cup for Northwood Black, he's like, I'm there. I wouldn't miss it. Like, he is just like, he's so thrilled to even just watch me play that course that he drops everything to be there for me to caddy at Northwood Black. And that also translates into him being the best hype man I could possibly ask for. And it's not even like really like a approval thing. It's just like, I'm going to throw this one. He's like, oh man, I can't wait. Like, he's just so excited to watch me throw every single shot. And that week, I just had a freaking stone face. It's a major week, first major of the year. WR Jackson's dead. It's time to take it to another wooded course, because the last time that I was leading a major was the 2022 Champions Cup after round 1. Now, when I was leading the 2024 Champions Cup, was I surprised? Absolutely not. But then when I was leading it after 2 rounds, I was like, hey, now we're talking. But then, so that was the weather delay. And I remember showing up for my 7:20 p.m. tee time and talking with Grant Zellner, who's part of the PDJ, on the practice screen. I'm like, I cannot believe I am out here right now. And he's like, yeah, I think everybody else feels the exact same way. I'm like, so who made the call? And from what I heard, Nate Heinold was the sole reason that we did not cancel round 2. And every other person was unanimous for round 2 to be canceled. We'll call it a 3-round tournament. But guess what? I see it. I mean, you can't really take the word of the guy who was in the lead of the tournament, but I see any tournament that was announced that it would be shortened before the final round, meaning like not the big Germ USGGC final round canceled. That's not an asterisk. Like Colton Montgomery's Waco win is not an asterisk. You know why? Because he knew that when he finished that round that day, the tournament was over and he won. So I obviously was in favor of that. And I just needed to put my game face on and just play my best golf. Doesn't matter how many rounds we were going to play. But then I kept my lead through round 2. We are going to go back to the host house before I have a couple hours to get ready for round 3. And oh man, like what a whirlwind of a couple hours. Like I like to start my day, ease into the warm up, go out in the round, and then decompress. There was no decompression possible. I was so like out for blood that I wish we never stopped throwing. I wish I walked straight from 18's basket to hole 1's tee, because all I did was stand there at the dining room table like this with lunch in front of me. And I just couldn't even think about like eating, because I needed to finish the job. And now I'm sitting here stagnating, but my intensity is like on overdrive. And we show up for round 3 and I freaking turned and you know, I had all this like pressure on myself, not really pressure. It's just want. It's all want. It's all fire. And it's just like, just whatever, running through my system. And as soon as the announcer announced my name, said, your leader, Casey White, and I stepped on the tee, whoosh, it all left. And I was just dialed in like I was in round 2. Parked hole 1. Like I said, get in the basket when I released the disc. And I was just like, yep, we're back. This tournament is mine. And I think I had my lead extended to 6 by hole 6. And hole 6's tee pad, tee shot is where my finger gave way. And I was in a panic. And it's like, a contained panic. I'm not like screaming and saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? But I'm just like, yep, we're going to new skin it up. And I'm like, okay, like, yep, let's dry it out. Make sure it holds. Next throw. Nope. Opened up again. Okay. And just rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And then it wasn't until I like bled a stroke that had nothing to do with the finger that I was like, oh man, what?
Do you think it was more a physical problem, or was it a mental one? When the finger went bad, it took you out of your zone?
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying to say that it like took me out of the zone I was in, but I was still in a zone that was willing to pull it together and was ready to. The problem was I was stepping up to every tee. Well, I mean, you couldn't say it's a problem, but this is what happened. I was stepping up to every tee saying, there's nothing wrong with your finger. You're going to rip this exactly how you would otherwise. And it was just like, almost bleeding, and it was just early release central. So it didn't matter how much I convinced myself or how confident I was. When the disc came out of my hand, I was like, oh, great. And, the thing that really just like, it was mind boggling to me, because I'm like, no, this isn't right. This is not, I've already seen this tournament play out in my head. I win this tournament. I don't understand. And even with the adversity, I'm saying, no, it's fine. You're going to get through this round because you're still going to win this tournament. There's no questions asked. And the fact that I just had that mentality, I can't thank myself enough, because now I know like that I have it in me to, with adversity, still mentally say like, no, like this is not how this story goes. I've already seen how this is going to play out, and this is mine for the taking. And yeah, it just wasn't meant to be. But at the same time, like, we play a 4-round tournament in 4 days and not cram it into the last 2. I guarantee you I would have held it together. My finger would have held it together.
So you've thought through this once or twice.
Oh man. Do you know how many? All right. So I'll give you guys the whole story. So we go into the final round.
We didn't already get the whole story?
No.
I thought we were done. That's why I made a joke.
We go into the final round.
Okay.
With super glue on my finger, and the super glue is gonna hold.
And sorry, where are you at this point? I don't remember where you were after round 3. Like a couple strokes back?
I was 5th place, top of chase card.
Okay.
And that's only because I took a triple bogey on 14 because I threw 4 early releases in a row. But so I super glued for the final round, but it's just never going to be the same as what my God-given fingers and feeling are going to, do for me on the course. And honestly, like, it didn't hit me that I wasn't going to win the tournament until like we made a turn at the back 9, and I was like, dang, like, it looks like it's not going to happen. But, let's stick it out and get yourself a nice major finish and a nice payday. Well, I don't look at the scores ever. Like, every round I just look at my caddy and I'd say, am I still winning? And he would like, yeah, for the first 2 or whatever, But then I caught a glimpse of the freaking scoreboard on the 18th tee of the final round. And when you think you're not doing that great, and then you get a glimpse of the scoreboard, and I'm like, oh, I'm still tied with Calvin. Like, Calvin's doing solid, so I must be doing fine. And that 18th at Northwood Black is typically a tight wooded tee shot and a tight wooded uphill blind approach. Much, much more disciplined shot. Now, the Northwood Park layout we played at the Champions Cup was 16 from 2019 Worlds. And that first tee shot is just like, honestly, I just took it for granted. It's just an overstable fairway hyzer. And I just said, all right, well, one last shot, don't blow the finger out and just let it slip. But it was fine. I just didn't put enough juice on it. I hit the one tree in the middle, and not only did I land short of the landing zone, but my disc went left and then backspun OB. And I'm in the mud pit because the course is a slosh fest. And I just ruined the hole. I threw it left. I pitched out. I threw a roller, cut rolled left. I pitch out. I get up and down, triple bogey, cost myself a top 5 finish at a major. And then I got in my van. I got Culver's with my caddy because it's the only thing that could bring me back to life. And then I got behind the steering wheel of the van and I drove to Denver because my now fiance was flying into Denver Monday afternoon and I had a deadline to be in Denver for. So there was like nothing I could do but sit by myself in my thoughts, driving through Illinois, Iowa, and Nebraska. So when you want to talk about
gorgeous country there, right? They call it the drive-through country.
There's only
The drive-through.
I can't tell you. Yeah, see, this is. There's only one drive that I remember being like, how is this possible that I could be this miserable right now? And it was when I watched Game 7 of the Boston Bruins against the Florida Panthers after leaving Jonesboro, and I'm driving through Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas after the Bruins lose the best season of all time in the first round.
That was really tough.
I'm in the middle of nowhere,
sad.
Kansas, laying on my horn and screaming because I just don't know what else to do. And those two drives
It makes
were
you a
year
Boston
apart.
fan. Like, you're a real Boston fan doing something like that.
Listen, I don't care if Casey's a real Boston fan. I want a new rule on the pod, Charlie. The only sports merch allowed on our pod is sports merch that we approve of.
No more Bruins hats.
No more Bruins hats.
For the guests.
That's right.
Avalanche hats only.
I'm a neutral on hockey, so I really don't care.
You've got a Rangers disc behind your
I
head.
know. If they made a Knicks one, I'd put it up there.
I hear you.
I like root for the Rangers in theory, you know?
Sure.
What is he supposed to do? Throw a Prodigy disc? Like, come on. He doesn't want to freaking end up with a flapper.
Oh my.
Oh.
All right. I want to come back around to this. We're going all the way back around to this. Who was the other company that you were thinking about going to, and what did they give you an offer that was above the previous Discmania one?
So who did you think I was going to sign with, Charlie?
Well, I told you, MVP.
Yeah, that was that.
I can't imagine that there were. I mean, your friendship with Simon, I think a lot of people were thinking that was a possibility.
Of course, but guess what? Predictability does not equal hype.
That's true.
And I've never really been in this position before where I felt like I had leverage and I had, I'm making a big life change. I'm buying a new van. I'm bringing my fiance and dog on the road with me. Like, that's a big change just in the cost of living on the road. And I just need to make sure I had myself squared away and I was going to be comfortable and be able to perform at the same level because I was comfortable financially in the past. So, yeah, Simon and I had talked to the Tour Championship and he basically told me, we could definitely take care of you. Well, when I got the offer, it was more guaranteed pay, but it didn't equal what I earned throughout the year with my Skywalker royalties and jerseys and just everything that builds my brand and just like connects me with the fans. One of the most important things to me is across the globe, anybody can walk into a retail store and pick up a Casey White Signature Series disc. And that was the thing that locked me in with Discmania because I've already had two very successful Signature Series runs with the Skywalker 1 and 2, and MVP was not offering that. The best they could do was like a couple hundred on their exclusive website, and I just wanted nothing to do with that. And, there's a lot of things that I also had to consider, and this is all just before I had gotten the call back from Discmania. Like, I had the first call, and they basically asked me, hey, would you take the same deal? And I was like, no. Let's work something out. So then I was like, all right, let's see. And I basically asked MVP, I'm like, is there any way that you could put a disc in retail stores around with my name on it? And they're like, no. So I was like, well, that's very important to me. That's building my brand is more important than money in my pocket right now.
I mean, you've been in pretty frank, so I don't know if what your contract says. What's the value of your Discmania contract that you just signed?
Honestly, I don't even know. Okay. I don't even know. I don't know. I know that it's better than where I was before, and I'm not really a finances guy. I don't really like budget or plan ahead. I'm usually pretty laid back and I treat myself when I feel I can, and that's pretty often. But It really just comes down to the relationship that I have with Discmania is, nothing like I could ever feel like I could have at a different company. And I am truly like great friends with the people that are the glue and foundation of the company. And I would never want to risk like harming that relationship. And it honestly just felt like wrong for me to have to be reaching out to other companies. So when they gave me the call back and they were able to give me what I needed, it was very, very large weight lifted off my shoulders.
As a House of Discs pro, have you felt the impact of the merger, of the downturn in the disc golf economy, and the impact on the the broader company, a House of Discs conglomerate? Like, has that trickled down to pros?
Maybe. I bet you there are Discmania pros that have been able to kind of turn a blind eye and they don't see a difference. But as somebody who was truly, genuinely connected to every single person that worked in Wellington, Colorado, House of Disc shut down their operation completely. They brought their staff from 20 people down to 4. Like what? Like literally 16 of my friends just said no more. You don't have a job here anymore. And some of them are people that moved their lives from Los Angeles back in the Innova days to now be Discmania, Colorado. They have relocated their families to be in Colorado. And now, I don't know, 6 years later, they're told, you're done here and you didn't do anything wrong. It's just, we don't need your facility because we're going to move all of our, retailer inventory and whatnot to Emporia. And that hurt. That was a personal thing. Like, I truly enjoy stopping in once a year in Colorado and spending a week with my fellow Discmania comrades. Like, I was there on my fiance's 30th birthday. It was the last day this was after I picked her up in Denver. This was the last day that all of the employees that were getting laid off were working. And dude, it was tears all over the place. Like, everybody was heartbroken. And I had heard about the news and how it even shook out. And it was out of everybody's hands. Nobody at Discmania wanted this. And that alone has made me just like, where would we be if we didn't, merge? And aside from that, like, just like some logistics of like acquiring discs have been pretty difficult, because it's not like in Colorado anymore. I don't get to call up my buddy and say, yo, what is the new shipment? Like, send me 2 of those when they come in. Like, they're like, now we have to submit a form and it goes to Emporia. And then guess what? I get my Discmania discs shipped to me in a dynamic discs box. And that is just like slap in the face. I'm like, do you think that I want like any association with the company that I'm not sponsored by? Like, no, I don't. I represent Discmania. I don't want a dynamic disc box. Like, the simplest thing, but it means so much to me.
You should have taken a picture of it and said, big news coming this year. And then a week later pulled out your Skywalker.
This was a while ago. Ago.
Does it feel like things have stabilized?
I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't. I just, I'm hoping for the best. And I still am holding out hope that the Discmania Colorado operation gets revamped. I don't know, though.
Do you think a majority of pros are better or worse off than 2019?
Oh, wow.
Not your top guys, right? Put the $1 million contracts to the side. Put your biggest ones, but the majority of you guys, pre-COVID versus now. And it's hard because you have to separate kind of where we were 2 years ago and 3 years ago.
It's got to be better than 2019, right?
But I can't agree more. I can't agree more. I dabbled in 2019. I was not a full-time touring pro until after the pandemic, but I saw enough. And when I saw somebody that I knew for a couple months on tour, you know, I'd keep up with their scores, and then I spent a week with them at the end of the season, and they went and bought a water bottle at the store, and it leaked, and they're like, I just spent like whatever $20 on this water bottle. Do you know how far that $20 could have stretched me if I didn't buy it on a water bottle that doesn't even work? And I was like, as somebody who's dabbling and not even fully committed, I'm like, is this what it's like? I don't know if I can be in that position where a water bottle leaking is the end of the world. So yeah, definitely used to be tough times in pre-COVID. So I think it has to be, yeah, everybody's better off for the most part.
So what do you make of this coming season? I mean, you sound like you feel like you've got a big year ahead of you. Do you think, like, we've got the big Europe swing? That's obviously going to be important for Discmania. You've got, you know, Worlds, essentially a Discmania event.
Yeah.
It's all going to be very interesting. So, like, when you look ahead to 2025 and the tumult of the last 12, 18 months, what do you see coming?
Before you answer that, I want to bring back up what you told us. I think it was probably 2 years ago now at this point. You said that, you know, your YouTube channel is what was most important, and that winning tournaments was not your priority, and that you would play practice rounds with just a bag of completely different discs than you usually play with, because you just wanted to have fun, and it was about the media, the content, being on the road, but less about the competitive side. So with that in mind as well, this upcoming season, how has that changed? What's this upcoming season like?
So, I mean, honestly, like 2023, I had like really high hopes for myself. I just felt like I was like ready to take a turn, and I actually took a turn in the wrong direction on the scoreboard. And it's like, oh man, it's getting hard out here, you know? So 2024, rather than like naive me being like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do it like I always do it, I was like, no, like I'm going to take it to the course every single week. And like, maybe my like in and out, day to day, hour to hour lifestyle didn't change, but right here changed: intensity. And it's always a battle between intensity, fun, and just like overall competitive edge. I truly believe that there are two versions of Casey White, the disc golfer. There is the one that will throw tilt only round, and, you know, discs that I don't get to throw that much on tour. And like, if I don't balance the funsies with the disciplined throws or rounds total, funsy round versus a disciplined round, I feel like it can kind of drive you crazy. Perfect example: Ezra Aderhold just posted about the Memorial and said, first off-tour event since 2020. And I said, dude, what is disc golf to you? Like, it is a job for you. Clearly, it is not a job for me. It is my hobby. It is my passion. And I am lucky enough to make a living off of it. But with that being said, it really comes down to the fact that when I am on a pro tour course, it is practice time. It is time to be intense. It's time to be disciplined. It's time to be smart and observant, all that stuff. When I am not practicing for a tournament, all the fun in the world is on the table. Like, I want to throw the flippiest disc possible on every shot. I want to throw a crazy backhand cut roller. You know what I mean? I want to get aces every chance I can when I am not preparing for competition. And I think that, you know, it works for me. Doesn't mean it would work for everybody, but I do encourage a lot of people to take a page out of my book and be like, hey, you can be the top level, intense competitor when the time is needed to be that person. But you also need to remember why we're out here, and we're all chasing aces. We're trying to throw silly shots and just enjoy it's kind of like what Big Germ said on his interview. Like, the new discs in his bag are like making him remember the awe of flight. And it's like so exciting for him to even hear that, because, you know, Big Germ, like you said, is on the tail end of his career. And like, I felt the same way about Simon, when he signed the MVP, he had his career year in 2022, but still, like, it felt really nice to just see somebody that I care about feel refreshed and motivated and driven and just having fun, you know?
Yeah.
And with that being said, I will add in now, I did want to save a little news bit from my new contract, because the time has come that I am exclusively European only Discmania made discs.
Oh, like in your bag.
No more Innova made plastic in my bag whatsoever.
Wow.
Is that contractually obligated, or are you
Yes.
choosing to do that?
Contractually obligated, but we talked about it. I asked some questions about, like, I just have these discs that have been in my bag for 5 years, and I truly believe that they make the money. They are the money makers. And then I had another conversation, and basically we're in the slowdown time. Those discs do not make the company money, and my relationship and longevity with the company is only going to be as healthy as how much money I bring the company. So even though it breaks my heart, these discs that I've thrown for years, and I have thrown so many memorable shots that, I'm thankful for the discs being as good to me as they have been. I'm just completely turning a new page in my career. And, I haven't been playing that much disc golf this winter. I've played 5 rounds since the start of December. And that's because we have Team Challenge up here in New England. That's the only reason I've gotten out on the course at all. And there's a fire lit in me, and I feel like I've got a fresh bag. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a brand new bag. I've still got my Skywalkers. I've still got my DD1s. I've got my overstable cloud breakers. I've got my mids. Like, everything is still like whatever, like it's just that it's about as good of a nice fresh feeling that I could get without, doing what I didn't want to do, which was leave Discmania. So it's kind of nice. It's almost like a best of both worlds.
So do you feel like you're going to be able to replace a disc that you have to take out, or is it like it's going to downgrade your skill for a little bit here?
So really what it comes down to is the most beat up, like the oldest discs in my bag. That's what it comes down to. I had a FD3 that would have been 5 years old like this January, and it's never left my bag for any tournament I've played since January 2020. I had a yellow Sea Line Huck Lab PD2 that was Simon's at one point, and then it made it down the freaking line, 5 different owners. It ends up in my hands, and it was just, it's one of those discs beat to beyond belief that it can't get any more flippy. It's just going to stay the same disc. I got it at the beginning of the 2022 season. It has not changed a bit. So really what it comes down to is getting those slots to something that's going to be so beat up that it doesn't change. And I have tried a Neo Vanguard to replace my Color Glow FD3 because I watched Kyle Klein ripping his sidearm hyzer flip at the Open at Austin when he was like kind of making a run for the win. And this is back in March. And I was like, oh, that looks nice. And he gave me one. So why shouldn't I try it? But then, it's mid-season. Don't fix it if it ain't broke. But now it's like, well, perfect. Like, I already kind of got that indirect recommendation from Kyle. I threw that right in the bag, and I was like, this is going to work.
Little follow-up to the season. Champions Cup is not at Northwood Black this year.
Certainly not.
Are you disappointed with the location of Champions Cup?
All right. I mean, would I rather be playing so the way I see it, this is part of the whole story of the Champions Cup is the Champions Cup was never supposed to be at Northwood Black. I almost got a once in a lifetime opportunity to play an exclusive Northwood Black tournament, and there's no better recipe for me to have claimed my first win on tour. I unfortunately, didn't seize that opportunity, and I don't think I'll ever get that opportunity again. And that is the only reason that it doesn't sit well with me, and it never will, because we will probably always play Lake Eureka half the tournament at Ledgestone. I don't love that course. I can shoot a solid round, but the farther throwers that can throw the jackknife hyzer into the green instead of me pushing a hyzer will always have the upper hand on me until I either just like grow an extra foot on my arm and can launch a 600-foot spike hyzer like AB. You know what I mean? So yeah, the fact that it's going to Stockton, I will say last year, the OTB Open, I had my best performance there. So there's hope, you know? Do I think I'm a favorite to win? Absolutely not. Will I be stoked with last year I think I got 21st or something. Will I be stoked with a top 20? Yeah, probably. At this point, I got 14th at Champions Cup last year. I got 14th at the European Open. Every major I play, I'm just trying to get my best major finish in my career. And that's really what it comes down to.
All right. Which major is the one you are most likely to get that this year? Sorry, Charlie.
I would say Worlds.
Awesome. Well, it's going to be a fun year. Good luck with the van. Good luck with the start of the tour.
Oh, thumbs up.
It's going to be a lot of fun. You got any other predictions for 2025?
Predictions? Ezra Robinson's going to win something.
Okay.
Predictions. You will want to remember the name Harry Chase. That's what I'm going to say. He earned a tour card in the Q Series. He throws way farther than I do. I just played him in a team challenge match in match play, and he beat me 6-4. So,
wow.
Keep an eye out for him. He's Rhode Island pride, and New England loves him. We all love him. He's a great kid, and he's going on tour in his sedan, and I hope nothing for the best for him.
Awesome. Well, Casey, thanks so much. We always love having you on. Appreciate all the honesty, and super fun as always.
Wouldn't have it any other way. I love being on here. Thank you guys.
All right. Casey White with us here on The Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Upshot. Thanks again to Casey for joining us. Always great to have him on. Josh, I think he really wishes he could go back to Champions Cup.
He's thought about it once or twice, that's for sure.
I appreciate how open he was about pretty much the entire offseason and like all the questions that we had about it.
Yeah, Casey White is an open book with us, and that's one of the reasons he's like one of my top 3 interviews on the show, because he'll tell you exactly what's going on, how it is, what happens, and it's nice to see pros who are willing to give a little bit more transparency to that process.
You think he's got a win in him this season?
I think on the right course he does.
He had, 3 top 10s this year on tour?
Yeah.
9th at the Pro Tour Championship, 10th at GMC, 9th at Beaver State, and 10th at Waco. Plus, obviously, it was right there at Champions Cup.
Right. I mean, he said it, though, like, his distance is not top tier, so it's got to be on one of these courses that's going to reward players just for their shot making, and that might be GMC, that might be a European tournament.
Yep.
But I don't know. Did he go to Europe last year?
Good question.
Yeah, because he said he placed well at European Open.
I got to refresh the page because I sorted on Statmano. Yeah, he was there.
Okay, how many?
He was 14th at European Open, and did not play well at the European Disc Golf Festival. He was 21st at Krokel. So,
okay. Well, maybe Europe isn't his place. I thought that'd be a nice fit, but I think he could get one on the right course, the right weekend.
Give him this: 2 top 15 finishes at majors. That's going to put him into a select few who've managed to do that.
Right. Yeah.
It'll be interesting. All right. We are going to wrap it up. We've got what, a month until the season?
Yeah.
some
Registration
fun
did
stuff?
open this week for the Supreme Flight Open.
Oh, nice.
Finally.
How's it looking?
It was pretty full pretty fast. When I
think,
looked on Tuesday.
No Kristen is, if I recall correctly. Let's take a quick look here. Looks like pretty much all the heavy hitters in MPO. Owen is the highest rated player in FPO. Owen, Holland, Missy, Evelina, Henna, Silva. So it's basically all FPO, but no Kristen. She has historically skipped this tournament. She
Just hard
debuted at
to-
Waco last year.
Yeah, it's there's a tiny bit of a gap between this event and then kind of a little bit of a stretch, so it makes sense. Makes sense just to stay home a little longer. She also, isn't probably playing as much because of the weather in Estonia, and so that might give her. Maybe she comes over, but just needs to kind of take some time to practice and get back in the swing of things.
Well, also just like Brooksville, Florida to Texas is far.
Yeah,
That's
true.
really far. Is the next event in Texas? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's got to be right.
So like I don't blame anybody who's like, forget it. Like I'll just
Right.
show up once I don't have to drive, 10 hours, 12 hours,
Yeah,
maybe longer than that.
yeah. Waco and then open at Austin.
Waco's first. Okay, how long do you think that
Yep.
drive is? Brooksville to Waco.
I'm gonna say like 16 hours.
Yeah, that's a good guess. I was definitely under 17 hours.
Oh dang, okay.
That's far. I mean, it's almost halfway across the country.
Yeah, that is far. I've driven 10 hours to play a disc golf tournament in my same state.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, life just hits different in the Mountain West.
It does.
Drives are just a different thing.
You're like, man, that's far. I'm like, okay, I wonder how far. I was like, I'm doing kind of like some pictures. I'm like, yeah, 16 hours. That's a day trip. You could do that. You could get there in one day.
Crazy. All right, we'll be back next week with more. We've got our State of the Industry episode coming up in a couple of weeks, and hoping to have some other really interesting business leaders on in the next few weeks before the season begins. So if you want to hear from somebody in particular, email us, upshot@ultiworld.com. Find us in the Discord if you're a subscriber. And all you got to do is go to discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. It's less than $4 a month to join the Discord, catch all of our live Inside the Circle bonus segments, and more. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. Give us a like and subscribe over on YouTube. We'll talk to you next week.